Hey everyone, welcome back. Second video for this week. And this week we're going to look at prevention technologies that we use to be able to prevent healthcare problems. It's going to end super depressing because I'm going to talk about it enabling unhappy lives. So sorry about that, but I mean, you know the price of admission to this class. So when we're talking about prevention technologies, I didn't write them up here, but I want to not single out three, but I guess triple out three. Water treatment plants, public sanitation, and vaccines. So each of these are things that vaccines we think about as healthcare, but I really want you to think about both water treatment plants and public sanitation, garbage workers taking away our trash, as being about healthcare prevention, being healthcare prevention technologies, healthcare preventative technologies. Water treatment plants, without those, which we don't even think about most of the time, right? Without those, we are incredibly susceptible because of the fact that we live in such population dense areas. We are susceptible to all kinds of diseases. Remember when we talked about in the last video, we talked about the fact that hunter gatherers, because of their low population density and because they're nomadic, they are moving around and they are able to kind of stay healthy. We don't have that. As soon as human beings settle down into a particular space, let alone a particular space with tons of domesticated animals, we just become magnets for disease. Without water treatment plants, we are dying by the thousands, if not millions, based on waterborne diseases. It's why anytime there's a natural disaster, the first thing that happens is how do we get water in there? Or boil your water warnings. Without those things, and those things happen because water treatment plants go offline. Public sanitation, same situation. If you think about the amount of trash that your household generates, and think about the fact that all of that kind of magically disappears once a week or a couple times a week, you leave all that stuff there, and it is a breeding ground for diseases or for animals to come in and animals that bring diseases. So those two aspects of our lives that are things we don't really think about all that much, water treatment plants and public sanitation, those are life-saving technologies. It's why in my sociological theory class, Big Ideas and Big Thinkers, we talk briefly about the fact that we pay doctors an incredible amount of money, as well we should. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but a doctor saves individual people and makes them healthy, and that's great. Janitors and garbage collectors save thousands and millions of people. They prevent diseases from happening at all, which just suggests the way we compensate people shouldn't be thought of as based on the effect that they necessarily have. Okay, that's all for that. So let's talk about these technologies and vaccines. I mean, obviously, vaccines are scientifically researched chemical formulations that end up helping prevent diseases from happening in the first place. So all of these are prevention technologies. Let's go to the pro side of it. So the first pro that I didn't even put up there, but it's worth putting up there, is it keeps you healthy. More specifically, it makes urban living possible. And when I say urban, I put that in quotes because you want to think anything that's bigger than a few hundred people should be considered urban. Those are, I don't want to say unnatural, but they are not the way 99% of human existence has played out. 99% of human existence is played out in these small bands or small packs of people, 100 or less. So when we talk about urban, yes, you should be thinking about million people cities, but you should also be thinking about the average town that we have. People living in that proximity, even a relatively rural but neighborhood where it's a bunch of people on the same block. Those people who are using the same resources, who are not moving around, who are making use of of public water or public sanitation, all of those things keep those populations healthy, let alone the suburbs and the cities that most people nowadays live in. When I say urban life, specifically, also, I want you to think about the idea of economic specialization. You're in college getting a major so that you can work in a very narrow career. That doesn't mean that it's, I mean, obviously, I'm in a super narrow career myself teaching this class. It's worthwhile, but it's important to understand that without an urban life, we don't have specialization. Everybody hunts and gathers. But also, so that's economic specialization, how we work, but also our ability to take part in public entertainment, going out to a restaurant, going out to a bar, going to see a concert, going to see a sporting event, going to the theater. All of those things, again, depend on these prevention technologies that we have. Now, I put these asterisks here for this reason. We think of these as things that add to the happiness of our lives, and they do. Pursue a specialized degree that is going to lead to a fulfilling life for yourself. But as we talked about in the last video, and as we've talked about multiple times during the course of this class, we're still chasing the level of happiness and fulfillment that hunter-gatherers had before the agricultural revolution. So yes, it makes urban living possible with these two elements of a fulfilling life for us urban people. But we're still not, I mean, most people who specialize and who go out to these entertaining events are still not as happy as our hunter-gatherer ancestors were, which is just depressing, which I'm going to take just a moment to say is because you cannot allow society to script your life for you and expect for it to be happy and fulfilling. You going through all of the things that our society tells you to value and tells you to do is not a guarantee of that. You have to create a fulfilling and happy life for yourself. Okay. Sorry. So cons. Cons to these prevention technologies. First of all, they can fail. They fail, and there isn't really a great backup system. And we have telecommunications that lets us know you need to boil your water, or we have transportation technologies that bring in water to a particular place. But failure means potential healthcare crisis. So that's not exactly a con of the technology. It's a con of our reliance on the technology as compared to what we had when we were hunter-gatherers. I put wastefulness up here as well for this reason. Our public sanitation system removes evidence of how much we use and how much we waste. So if you were to think about the bags of groceries the bags of trash that you end up with at the end of a week, whether it's you don't quite fill up a bag or your family fills up a bag or two bags or whatever, think about that just accumulating outside your house or inside your house. How much stuff we use. We don't think about it that way for the most part because all of those bags of trash, all of that quantity of stuff that was in our lives briefly and then gone gets magically taken away from us. So we don't see the evidence of it, which means we're a little bit blind to the amount of resources that we use and the amount of resources that we waste. That is a con to this technology. If we didn't have this technology, we would probably be a little bit more mindful of how much we use, how much we tax nature and the earth. And also, as a result of that, how much we contribute to climate change, because most of the stuff that ends up in our house had to be brought to our house by using fossil fuels. So sorry, but that's the nature of this class. So we've got that. And then finally, we have these things enable unhappy lives, which again gets back to these asterisks. To a degree, it gets back to these asterisks, but there are a couple of other points. So these things allow us to live urban lives, but we know that living in nature or being in nature contributes to happiness. We don't have to live in nature because we have these technologies. So in a way, the fact that I could move to a city where I'm not going to be in nature, where I'm not going to have that sort of happiness stimulation, these technologies are enabling me to live a less happy life. And to the extent that living an urban life puts you around a bunch of people who don't care about you, a bunch of strangers, which, no offense to them, they're living their own lives. I'm a stranger to them. But again, this is something that enables us to live in a context that creates loneliness. It creates a sense of alienation from other people that our hunter-gatherer ancestors never had. So that's obviously I'm not saying so get rid of water treatment centers or anything like that. But it is worth thinking about the fact that we have, hold on, I want to make sure I have this quote. It's a quote that I'm going to give you later on in the at the end of the week. But to allude to it, these are technologies that enable us to live lives that aren't as good for us as the lives that we as a species gave up 12, 13,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution. Sorry. Thanks to our sanitation workers and our water treatment people, but there are some pretty big trade-offs here. Okay, that's it for our prevention technologies. Next video, we'll look at the next step, when something does go wrong, how we diagnose it. So diagnostic technologies. I'll see you then.